Welcome back to the GDevelop beginner tutorial here. We're making a simple platform game just using the resources that are in there. In this video, we're going to be adding a simple gear or like spinning razor thing that just moves backwards and forwards. Now you could actually adapt this and make it a moving platform. There's all kinds of things that you can do with this. So let's get into it. And the first thing we're going to add a few objects here. Now I'm going to add some of these that are already in here, and we'll get around to adding our own graphics soon enough. But for now, I think we're just going to add some of these. Now, the one that I want to use is called a gear, and it's this here. There's no kind of razors or anything like that, but this will do fine. I'm going to add this to the game. Then I'm going to go ahead and look for a left arrow button like this and add it to the game, and I'm going to look for a right arrow button and add it to the game. Now what these are going to do is, if I put this gear in here, first I might just change the Z order down so it's behind everything. Put it in the negatives, there we go, it's behind that. These arrows, I'm just going to go ahead and very quickly add. Hold control, make a few more of these going out this way. Okay, so what these arrows are going to do is they are going to be the kind of the check. So it's going to check whether it hits an arrow, and if it hits one of these arrows, it's going to go in the opposite direction. So the razor is going to kind of spin back and go in the opposite direction. There is a way to move these without being... Oh, there we go. You can hold the Alt key and position it exactly there. And we're going to hide these in the game. So what's going to happen, this is going to go along, it's going to hit this, it's going to bounce back the other way, and then so on and so forth. What we need to do first, though, is to set up a variable on this so it knows which direction it's facing. So we're going to go ahead and edit object variables on the gear. These will be unique to each gear, so you can have multiple gears and they'll all have different variables. You only need to do this once and each one will have it. So I'm going to call it facing, and we're going to set its initial value to 0. We're going to make 0 equal right, and we're going to make 1 equal left. Actually, we can just use the direction here, I think. So we're just going to make it equal 0, which will equal right. Okay, so let's go into our events. Before we do anything else, I'd kind of like to organize this a little bit. So I'm going to right click down here and I'm going to click group. I'm going to add, this one here is going to be called player control. And I'm just going to drag some of these things into player control. Okay, pretty much everything that's going to be relevant to player control. I'm going to move that there. R is also player control. We'll move that in there. Center camera on the player, that'll be player control. We'll leave that one. That means we can minimize this. Then we're going to add a new event, and we're going to call this one gear movement. There we go. And I'm going to add a new group, and I'm going to call this one markers. All right, so we've got some groups here. Now this second one, gear movement, I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to add a sub event. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to get our gear rotating. So we're going to add an action here, gear, and we're going to go all the way down here to rotate, and we're going to make it rotate about 360 degrees per second. We'll click OK. Now we can play this. Make sure you save every so often as well. GDevelop has a kind of an odd thing with saving. Sometimes it doesn't really want to do it. All right, that looks plenty dangerous. It's spinning pretty fast, so it looks good. All right, so that part's working. Now we're going to right click on gear movement and add in a new sub event. It's a good way to organize your stuff here as well. This condition is just empty. I can probably delete it. There we go. We might make a new group for this one later. But this here is going to have a condition. We are going to check at the beginning of the scene. We're going to make it move in the direction that it's facing. So we're going to add a condition here. We go other conditions, and we'll say scene at the beginning of the scene. Okay. So at the beginning of the scene, we're going to make it add a condition, add an action, gear, add a force angle. And the angle here is going to be, and we're just going to make it 0. And we're going to set speed to be 150. Okay, so what we've got here, we want an instant force, by the way, an instant force. And I actually made a mistake here, so we're going to delete that at the beginning of the scene. We don't need this one. My mistake. We don't need it. You can delete it. We already set it up to be 0 at the start of the game, so we don't need that one. We've got the rotating bit in there. We're going to check the value of the facing variable. So we go to gear and we look for variable. So if we scroll down here, we see variables, structures. We don't have any data structures. Value of an object's variable. The object variable are listed here, so we want to check what it's facing. We want to see, is it equal to 0? Okay, and then we're going to add an action. And we're going to add, on the gear action, we're going to say add a force angle. So this is what I kind of made a mistake there. So we're going to add a force at angle 0, and we're going to add it to be 150, an instant force. Now what this is going to do, we can actually test it now. As long as because it's going to check this every single frame of the game, so 30, 60 frames per second, I'm not sure what it runs at. It's going to check this and say, well, is the variable facing equal to gear? If so, add a force to it that's going to move at 150 pixels, roughly however long. And so that moves to the right. Okay, so we've got that force. It just keeps going forever. Now we're going to duplicate this, so I'm going to add in another sub-event. We'll right-click on Gear Movement and add sub-event. And copying and pasting in this is a little bit weird. I'm going to copy this, and then I can paste it here. So watch this carefully. Right-click, copy, move it down here. It says or paste actions. You just click that and it pastes it in. We're going to change some values here. So we're going to say, we're going to change this one to 1. So if it equals 1, we're actually going to change this to 180. The reason it's 180, let's see if I can bring up Microsoft Paint, is in GDevelop, your objects kind of work like this. So you've got your default right is 0, so 0 degrees, and we think of a circle. And then going clockwise, the direction down would be 90. And so going clockwise again, this direction here would be 180, and then up would be 270. This is the opposite of things like Game Maker and Godot and other things, where down is usually 270 and it goes anti-clockwise. But in GDevelop it goes clockwise, so right is always 0, and then down is 90, left is 180. So that's why we are adding 180 degrees to our angle, if the gear is equal to 1. If we run this though, you'll see that it just keeps moving to the right, even though we want it to hit this arrow and bounce back to the left. So let's go ahead and add that condition in now. So we'll right click here, add in a new sub event, add a condition, gear collides with left arrow button. We'll add both of these conditions first. So we're going to add in a sub event here, and condition, gear collides with right arrow button. We've got these two. And now we're going to add an action. The action is going to change the variable. So that variable is remembering which direction it's facing, and then the code makes it move in the direction based on where it's facing. So we're going to modify a variable of an object. Not the text of a variable of an object, but modify a variable of an object. This is different. This works with numbers, this works with text. We're using numbers. So we want to say equal to, this was, I think it was the left one. So when it hits the left arrow, we want it to say 1. Yep, when it's in collision with the left arrow, so go left, we want it to say 1. And I'm going to copy this, right click copy, and paste it here, and change this to say 0. So when it's in collision with the right arrow button, hit 0. Now what should happen is it should bounce backwards and forwards. Now the collisions might not be perfectly accurate. We would have to have a look at the collision detection on here, edit hitboxes. It's because of the way that it's rotating, so I could possibly edit this to make it a little bit better. And so to edit hitboxes, it's a matter of adding a few things in here, right? So I can add these. It's a little bit tricky though to figure out which one's getting added where. Because it kind of, it seems to I'm not sure how it decides where these things are. But I'm just going to add a few. Actually, I might bin them all and then just add one at a time. No, I have to have 3. So let's just do that. And then I add more. They're all getting added up in this corner. You can specify where, but I think I'm just going to have 8 points. Okay, so I'll just pull these down and then I can kind of rearrange them after that. I wish there was I'm sure that there's a way that this makes sense a little bit better. But I am going to kind of set up 8 points here. 1, 2. Maybe I might need 10. Yeah, I probably need 10. Okay, I'll grab these and move them around. Now there is a trick to this. And the shape needs to be what is known as convex. I probably got too many here, so I'll just kind of, yeah, I do have too many, but it's all right. It just means one side will be a bit more accurate than the other. If you get this on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, it means that your shape is not convex. Now, I'll explain what this means. If I create this shape, for example, all of the internal angles are 90 degrees or more. All of the external angles are, in this case, more than 180. And that makes the shape convex. But it's easier if I draw it like this. If I show you what isn't convex, it'll make more sense. So let's go ahead and I'll just draw a non-convex shape. And I'm going to draw it freehand, pretend these are straight lines. Okay, let's do a thicker brush. There we go. Okay, so this shape is not convex. It has this angle that goes inwards here, like this, the part of the shape that goes inwards, like a piece has been cut out of a solid, more solid shape that will go across there. This is not convex, and I actually don't know if it works. I've never tried it. It gives you an error, but if I move that to there, you see, if I move that in there, it's now not convex. If I move it out, it is. So you should have a convex shape. Anyway, that's how that works. So I'll click apply to that. And if I hit play, the collision should be a bit more accurate now. There we go. It is. Because it's not kind of using the whole square. So that's working a little bit better. And I've got that going backwards and forwards. Now, you can go ahead and add in other stuff here, like if you collide with that, you die and so on, disable the movement like we've done before. We are going to add some sub-events here though, add sub-events at the beginning of the scene. So scene, at the beginning of the scene, we are going to do this, hide. So hide the left arrow button and hide the right arrow button. And now I hit play. And they're gone, and we have this blade that kind of goes backwards and forwards. Now you probably will want to edit the collision box there, because otherwise you kind of will get to this point and it will probably register as a hit, which wouldn't be very fun for the player. So you can change that collision box, but it's for more advanced users. So you can do this, and nothing's going to happen if I step in front of it now. But what you may also want to do is make a moving platform. So you could make a copy of these platforms here and make it move. You could do it up and down, you could do it left and right. You could even do it on different angles as well and have it moving, and so the player will move with it. Now, I'm not sure what happens if I put, if I make this gear a platform. So I'll just see what happens. I've made that a platform. No, I didn't. Add behavior, platform. Yep, we'll make it a platform. Cool, and I hit play. Not sure what happens here. Let's see, I can't jump through it. If I jump on it, it's glitching out, but that's because it's not a perfect platform. And it's kind of bumping me away from it, which is a bit weird. But you can have it so that it is a moving platform and the player moves with the platform as well. I'm going to remove that behavior, just showing you that it does actually work. So from here, you want to go ahead and maybe add some of these in, some obstacles. You can have them running up and down, walls. There are ways that you could have it actually going like on a square path. You could set up some of these that make it move up and down, left and right, and then check 4 different facing variables. So maybe 0 is right, 1 is left, 2 is up, 3 is down, and then get it to apply those forces based on that. Really, how far you take this is up to you. So I've shown you the basics here of using some variables. So we can add scene variables here as well. We don't need to go into this bit here. We can just add them over here. You only need one, so you don't need facing 0 and then another one facing 1. This will change, okay? And that's what the code does here. It changes that variable to 0 or 1 when we hit a left arrow or a right arrow. And then the game is constantly checking, is it equal to 0? If it is, we're moving to the right, to angle 0 degrees, which I showed you on the little paint thing before. If it's equal to 1, we're moving to 180 degrees, which is the left. And we're moving at that speed. You can turn this speed up. I don't know what will happen. It may glitch through the things. No, it doesn't. It goes pretty fast. Okay, I'm not sure what the upper limit of that is. Don't try to crash it. If you put a big stupid number in, you could have what is known as a floating point error in the computer where it can't handle big numbers, like really big numbers, and it will crash and you could lose your work. So just be aware that if you do put ridiculous numbers in, it will crash. Let's see if I can make it crash. This might be the end of the video. Yep, it's disappeared. It's just flown off the screen, but it didn't actually crash, so that's good. All right, that's the end, and I'll see you in the next video.